A growing number of doctors have changed their tune and no longer believe high cholesterol causes heart disease, like cardiologist Sinatra.
You know, cholesterol is found at the scene of the crime for heart disease, but it's not the perpetrator.
The newest thinking is inflammation is the real cause of heart disease, and that comes from eating too much sugar, bread, and the trans fats found in processed foods. In his book, The Great Cholesterol Myth, Sinatra says he figured out cholesterol was not the cause of heart disease by observing his own patients.
I was doing angiograms on people with cholesterols of 150, and they had far advanced heart disease. And the converse, I would do an angiogram on somebody with cholesterols of 280, and they had no heart disease.
Dr. Sinatra says since cholesterol is not the problem, most people do not need cholesterol-lowering statin drugs.
Well, Laurie is here with us, substituting for Dr. Sinatra, who was held off because of the snow. Laurie, I had a friend who had muscle aches. He had all kinds of weakness. He had suffering, all kinds of things. And I said to him, you know, you really ought to stop taking that Lipitor. He said, well, I was told by a doctor to take it. I said, why don't you stop? He stopped, and all of a sudden the aches and the pains left.
Well, a lot of people think that the leg cramps and the fatigue and the brain fog are because, well, I'm getting older. But no, it's the statin, and the brain fog is a real problem because, you know, our brains need cholesterol. And when you deplete the cholesterol in your brain, you start having memory problems. And Dr. Sinatra says that it even can bring on the onset of Alzheimer's by 15 years.
Wait a minute, you mean taking Lipitor, or what are some of the other ones?
Crestor.
Crestor.
Yeah.
And there's some other ones.
Yeah, there are.
Statin drugs will actually bring on the onset, potentially bring on the onset of Alzheimer's by 15 years.
That's what Dr. Sinatra says, and he's not the only one, too. He's not the only doctor who says cholesterol is not the cause of heart disease, that it's inflammation. This is a whole... The tide is turning, and more doctors are getting on board with this philosophy that it's the inflammation, not the cholesterol.
The statins also deplete CoQ10, which is vital for heart functioning and heart health and the whole mitochondria.
Absolutely. So if you are taking a statin, you should be taking 100 milligrams of CoQ10 every day to offset that depletion of the CoQ10.
Do you think, you know, Laurie, I just don't think doctors get trained in nutrition.
They don't. Not at all. Very little nutrition training. And so a lot of these doctors, like Dr. Sinatra, and there are others that I've interviewed, like Dr. Westman down at Duke, who say they saw through their own patients that it's not the cholesterol, that it's the inflammation. And, you know, doctors really didn't know too much about inflammation until recently. So we knew that when you looked at a damaged artery, there was cholesterol there. Well, the latest thinking is that cholesterol is good. Cholesterol is there to heal and to help. They like to compare it to, let's say that you have a bunch of houses that are burning to the ground, and you think, what is causing all these houses to burn to the ground? Well, the fire department is always there, so it must be the fire department. Well, no, on closer examination, it's the flames. The fire department is there to help, and that's sort of the same way it is with cholesterol. It's the inflammation.
Well, they're talking about sugar. Is it 240 pounds of sugar a year each American consumes?
It's absolutely disgusting. I mean, most people eat in 1 month the amount of sugar that 100 years ago they would eat in a year. But it's not just the sugar. It's also the foods that turn into sugar as soon as we eat them. The white bread, these processed carbohydrates like the pastas and all those things, they turn right into sugar. Another thing are the trans fats, which are in the processed foods, and also the omega-6 fats. A lot of people get confused about omega-6 fats.
I used to think, you know, canola oil and peanut oil and safflower oil.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, they used to think that'd be good stuff, but no, it has to be the omega-3s.
That's right. So all those vegetable oils that you see in the clear plastic bottles in the grocery store, those are highly inflammatory. And people are like, oh, well, then what are we supposed to cook with? You should cook with coconut oil is great for medium temperatures. Avocado oil is really good for high temperatures. Olive oil is good at very low temperatures and also raw. But these are the types of oils that are anti-inflammatory. So what you should not be eating are sugar, the processed carbohydrates, the white breads, the pastas, the white foods, and the trans fats and the omega-6 fats, which are normally found in processed foods. Do eat those anti-inflammatory, wonderful fats.
If we read the label on most bread, on most cereals, especially most cereals, we will find invariably that it's high fructose corn syrup and sugar and other types of sweets. So it's not just sugar. I mean, it's honey, it's syrup, it's whatever else, but especially high fructose corn syrup.
And it's not just in sweet foods. It's in yogurt. It's in pasta sauce, foods that seem healthy. Almost all of these processed foods have some sort of a sugar or a syrup or some form of sugar in them because they taste really good and they're addicting.
The problem is it's hyping the pituitary, and it's hyping the insulin production, and before long this is what leads to type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely, which has gone through the roof. So all those foods are highly inflammatory. They don't just cause heart disease, they cause diabetes, they lead to cancer, arthritis, the list goes on and on. So what do you eat if you don't eat those? You need to eat an anti-inflammatory diet. One of the most anti-inflammatory foods you can eat are good fats. Topping the list, fish oil, very anti-inflammatory.
I take a teaspoon of Norwegian cod liver oil every day.
Wow, good for you.
Every day.
And I know you're a big walnut fan. That was number 2 on my list.
Walnuts are tremendous.
Walnuts.
Flaxseed's good. But anyhow, I'm a fan of nuts. I'm a fan of beans, all kinds of beans. That's the fiber, and it's just.
And they are the musical fruit, I hear.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? On a slightly other subject, I recently did a story talking about the blue zones, the areas across the world where people live the longest, and one of the things that they all have in common are diets high in beans.
Hey,
love them. So you're on the right track.
Every
but other
day.
anti-inflammatory foods, I know you like the
nuts,
nuts.
And mixed berries, blueberries, and all the antioxidants.
Vegetables are extremely anti-inflammatory. The paleo diet is actually a very anti-inflammatory diet. So you can bring down that inflammation by choosing the right foods to eat and choosing the right foods to avoid.
I want to show you this book, folks. It's called The Great Cholesterol Myth, written by John Bowden and Stephen Sinatra. And it's really a tremendous book. So I'll hold this up and
You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and this is one of the best books I have ever read, one of the best health books I've ever come across. I give it to everyone I know.
Well, I said the same thing when I read it. This is fantastic because it's very practical, very easy to read, and then at the end they give you some diets, some things that you can eat and tell you what to do and what to avoid, and they make it very simple. It's not complex at all. But folks, let's live longer. This is how to do it.
Absolutely is. I want to put in one more plug for another book. We got to talking about good fats versus bad fats. It can be confusing. So if people want clarity on fats, there's a great new book out called Big Fat Surprise. It's easy to remember, Big Fat Surprise. And that lays it all out for you there, too.
Okay. Well, Laurie, you're terrific. Thank you so much.